right. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Power Creep is worse than you think by Farfa. I'm not subscribed to Farfa. Interesting. Okay, well, let's watch.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Power Creep might just be worse than you initially thought. Cards today are just better than cards 5 years ago.
That's crazy.
That much is obvious. But in what way? And can we find a clear way to explain this? The game, as we all know and love, as prophesized, is dead.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is dead! No! What are we gonna do?
No, we're not doing that. And look, if you did click on this video hoping that this would just be bashing the game, that's not exactly what this is going to be. Everyone obviously hates their own game a little bit, so, you know, some of that. But that's...
What did I just read? I only choose the meta cards so I can make everyone miserable playing against me? Oh my god. Classic branded player, right? Amazing. Was pretty deep when he does his essays. Yeah, exactly. Power creep.
That's not what this is about. Power creep has become a buzzword in modern gaming to refer to just about anything involving the forward flow of time. But what do we actually mean? Champions and heroes released in 2026 are usually just flat out better than those 8 years ago, with better ults, more flexible signature abilities, and generous activation requirements. Hell, they've even managed to power creep chess. Angeliki, an archetype which...
I cannot wait for Angeliki to be in masterduel. This is gonna be the funniest thing ever. I like how it's just like they are just synchros, nothing else.
can take your opponent's
There's one main deck monster, but you know what I mean.
Monsters through the EMZ in Genesis format. Genesis format. Yeah.
The
problem
buzzword.
with Genesis format is, in the context and realm of power creep, join me as we together define, discuss, and dissect this topic in complete depth. First of all, we will begin with outlining power creep. What does it mean? What does that actually constitute? Second of all, we will quickly highlight some of the most egregious examples of power creep and what that actually entails. Of course, some of this will be quite obvious. How far can we go from a Fallen of the White Dragon versus a Mathmech Circular only a few years ago? And third of all, today we will be going over the quiet power creep.
Quiet power creep. I wonder what could that mean. I like that he's explaining all the points that he's gonna make. I like that.
The sort of spark for what caused me to think about this and discuss this topic. What does that mean? What is the quiet power creep in Yu-Gi-Oh? And what are some of those examples? And finally, we will be talking about the future and what this means in the long term. This sounds like your kind of video, then please make sure to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment down below with some of your examples and features of what power creep and the quiet power creep could entail.
Let's do that. Every time that he makes an example, let's try to think of other cards like that and what would be like their counterpart. So let's try to do that to make it seem that we know what we're talking about. Yeah.
I'm waiting for you to subscribe. No, we're not doing this. Look, it's rough out
here. I already subscribed. What do you want from me? Do you want me to subscribe to the Patreon? There's no way. Defining power creep. Okay.
Power creep is...
I was about to define power creep without looking. Yeah.
Is the slow and gradual escalation of power within game design, where champions, loadouts, talents, cards, and decks are fundamentally more powerful than their previous versions and iterations in almost any and all circumstances.
Yeah, sure.
Why does this happen? Well, power creep...
Because you want newer cards to be better, so that there is an incentive to play them. You cannot make newer cards that are worse than the previous cards, because anyone will just ignore them and not play them.
Usually is used as a tool to sell future updates, future boxes, and cards for you to purchase, because you're gonna want to just play with the broken shit. That makes sense, right? From a business perspective anyway, it makes sense. In 2016, Konami printed the card Twin Twisters, a quick play spell that, for the cost of a discard, could destroy 2 of your opponent's spells and traps. Twin Twisters became the go-to back row removal because, while Twin Twisters had a discard cost, more often than not, this could be seen as a positive, with graveyard effects becoming more prominent at the time, and notwithstanding the loss of a card in hand, with 2 to 3 card combos being the norm, it was often better to just clear the powerful back row, like Solemn Strike and Fogblade to guarantee your plays at the time.
But this only works if you're in a meta where the opponent, well, in a meta where there's a lot of back row, right? In a meta without back row, this card is like really bad.
Twin Twisters quite literally replaced the Mystical Space Typhoon overnight. In the 7 or so years...
Oh yeah, in a Mystic Mind meta would be really good. Yeah, I guess so. Just add and add and add until you want to do something about that. So true.
Since then, MST has been ran over Twin Twisters in only really a handful of deck lists until, of course, the modern advent of things like Lightning Storm and even the archetype based around MST, Radiant Typhoon.
I cannot imagine a world without Lightning Storm. Do you know how old Lightning Storm is? When did it come out? Because to me it seems like, oh yeah, that's is it better than Regeki? I guess because it gives you the chances of destroying spells and traps, right? 2019, I guess. Oh, interesting. But it only destroys attack position monsters. Yeah.
And yet, where is Twin Twisters today?
More versatile.
In the same way that MST was replaced, Twin Twisters likewise got replaced with the Lightning Storm, and even an unbelievable, still banned card in the TCG, Red Reboot.
Red Reboot does a different thing, right? Because first of all, it only works for traps, and it doesn't get rid of continuous effects, right? With Twin Twisters, with Lightning Storm, you can get rid of continuous spells and traps. Red Reboot cannot do that. But I get the point, right? What you really care about are the counter traps, the solemns and stuff. So depends on the meta, like I said. Depends on the meta. So I don't know if this is the best example of power creep, but I get what he's trying to say.
In the context of back row...
Was that me? Was that a notification from me? Wait, what? No, it wasn't. Was it? It was a video, right?
Card in the TCG, Red Reboot. In the context of
back
row removal, spell and trap destruction, this linear and gradual change for the power level that we've seen over the last 10 years is really well encapsulated in the process going from MST to Twin Twisters to Lightning Storm and Red Reboot, and even circling back in some ways today with the unbanning in recent years of Harpy's Feather Duster. But for the most part, you can see that there is this cascading level of power with regards to just individual cards.
The obvious power creep, okay?
Over time, we've seen all sorts of Yu-Gi-Oh cards get stronger in different categories, from the defensive cards to the extenders, the extra deck toolbox, things that have only gotten more resilient, versatile, and the ceilings of the combos have also increased to staggering heights over the course of the game's lifespan. Now, my favorite cards to talk about in this context is the extra deck toolbox monsters, and I think they perfectly elucidate exactly what we're talking about today. One of the first Xyz monsters ever printed was Maystroke, the Symphony Djinn, a generic rank 4 that could be used to very simply set a monster your opponent controls from face up attack position to face down.
Okay.
This was one of the first generic Xyz monsters that could deal with your opponent's problem monsters. Remove is a strong
toolbox is something generic. Yes, I will say it is. What toolbox means is like generic things that you can get, right? Like anyone can get them to do like specific things, like staples. Yeah, but from your extra deck, because in theory they are always available, right? You don't have to draw them. I think that's what it means.
Word to use for Maystroke, but the idea of setting a monster and then attacking over it was sort of the goal that you were going with. Defense points were usually smaller than attack points.
Like what I will think is probably the Nightmare Unicorn. No, not Unicorn. Nightmare Phoenix and Cerberus. You can just get them with any two monsters, right? You always have, as long as you can get two monsters, you can destroy one monster in your opponent's field or a spell or trap, right? A back row. Yeah.
Now, first and foremost, the thing to highlight here is that Maystroke is an extra deck monster. There is no requirement to draw Maystroke. In the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh, more often than not, you would have to wait until you could actually draw an out to problem monsters. Fissure, a Metamorphosis with a level 1 to equip your opponents, or just simply drawing the one of Dark Hole in a deck that consisted of at least 40 cards. And so with removing cards at any point in time, if you had 2 level 4s, no requirements of a tuner, no requirements of an archetype, you could overlay 2 guys into Maestroke and attack over something. And while Maestroke is a good card to be able to get over monsters, there is a lot of prerequisites. Your opponent must have no response from the hand, they must have no back row, they must have no back row that deal with summoning or attacking, and on top of that, the monster must have no protection of sorts. Well, the next step after Maestroke, less than a year later, was Black Ship of Khorne, another rank 4 monster whose effect read that you could simply target a face-up monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard, while even performing a bonus 1000 burn.
Wait, this is huge. This is a good card. Wait, why does no one play this? I guess that is better. I guess you got power crept. Like, what is the evolution of this? You can detach one exist material, then target one face-up monster your opponent controls with attack less than or... Oh, it's because the attack. Okay. I missed that part. He has to have less attack than this guy. Okay. That's why.
Damage. No battle phase required this time. But notice how the gap is very minimal. The Black Ship of Khorne isn't so much better than Maestroke. It wasn't leagues ahead, and in 2013, when this card was released, if you were playing a rank 4 deck, you would more often than not just play both of them together. Sometimes it'd be good to do the little bit of burn damage, sometimes sending was better, sometimes the monster would have too much attack points, but very little defense points, and so Maestroke would be the better option. The following year, in 2014, we saw 2 cards released in the same set, Legacy of the Valiant, Evil Swarm Exciton Knight, and Silent Honor Arc.
Is it called Exciton or Exciton? I don't know anymore. But yeah, this destroys everything, so this is definitely better. What does this do? Silent Honor Arc? You can detach 2 material from this card, then target one special summon monster your opponent controls face up attack position. Attach it to this card as material. That's already really good. You can only use this effect once per turn. If this card will be destroyed by battle, you can detach one material from this card instead. Huh. These both seem really good.
And these cards alone propelled the rank 4 pool to new heights like never before. Rank 4s were already the most generic ways to interact with the extra deck by this point, and since they didn't require a tuner, and the most economical normal summon in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the level 4, which maximizes the stat weights given to a card without requiring a tribute, this was good for pretty much every relevant archetype at the time. Evil Swarm Exciton Knight was a quick effect, again, quick effect, to destroy all other cards on the field once per chain, as long as you had less total cards than your opponent. I don't think I need to explain how this eclipses both Maestroke and Black Ship in most contexts, and I understand that this is comparing apples to oranges somewhat, since the removal in this context is based on things like card advantage, or even your own potential set cards risking being blown up. Years later, in the set Flames of Destruction, we got the Nightmares, a series of Link monsters that were completely generic, and that they had no level requirements to make in the first place.
There you go, that's what I mean, right? You only need 2 monsters. You don't need them to live level 4, right? They could be anything.
But with the cost of discarding, a potential positive effect for many decks around this time period, like the Orcusts, they could destroy all kinds of cards. Cerberus could destroy a special summon monster, Phoenix could hit a spell and trap, and Unicorn could avoid the graveyard altogether by returning its target to the deck, albeit by requiring 1 more Link material. But the reason these cards were so good was that if your deck could facilitate the swarming and the bodies, you could summon these over each other, unlike an Xyz monster. Plenty of danger decks and other swarm strategies around at the time could just keep flooding the field with monsters, and so you'd make a Nightmare into a Cerberus, into a Unicorn, and through that you have eliminated 3 of your opponent's cards, just because of how generic the summoning mechanic
play that
itself.
Fast? I'm pretty sure this is sped up, right? I'm pretty sure this is sped up, right?
Of Link monsters is. If you want to find out a little bit more about this time period mechanic itself of Link monsters is. If you want to find out a little bit more about this time period specifically and are interested in watching a documentary on this, I have a video on my channel called The Story of Firewall Dragon, which you can check out and have a look at and see exactly how this time period unfolded. Yet curiously, despite how generic and useful
show me the SP Little Knight
almost vanished from competitive play. I don't think I've seen a Nightmare in an extra deck of a topping deck list in years at this point. At least not for their intended purpose. Because enter SP Little Knight, a completely generic Link 2 that can banish any card on the field or in the graveyard, while in the process having a trigger effect to dodge targeting abilities that your opponent might use to disrupt her. From Maestroke to Little Knight, the chasm
This card is huge. The more that I think about it, it's like, whoa, this card, isn't this card like extremely good? Like, it makes sense how, I feel like I really like this example of power creep. Like, we're at this point right now. Like, what could be better than this? Unironically, right? What can be better than this at this point? Can you come up with the next step on power creep? The next to generic Link to monster for removal with only one material? Can you imagine a Link 1? That is so funny. You can just turn anything into a Link 1 that removes things. Returns things to the hand. Oh yeah, like a portable, what's it called? Compulsory something device? Emergency device? Something like that, right? I don't remember the name. Little Knight is the queen of generic links. Yeah, that's why she is Jane Link.
Power and the game
Jane
design
Link
gap
2,
we
yeah.
talked about earlier is obvious. And that's not to criticize this or say that this is a bad thing, but it is very interesting to see that gradual change from the extra deck monster toolbox into the position that it is in today.
No need for an extra deck monster will be the next step. Remove, I think. Yeah, I guess so. I guess that makes sense. Low power creep.
So what do we mean by slow power creep? We've given a linear example of how this has been really obvious with things like the toolbox and the extra deck. And of course, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the obvious power creep.
Wait, hold on. Like MST is a weaker version of Falling on the Virtues that can destroy any recycle self. That thing that you drop from your extra deck. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's okay. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. MST is a weaker version of Falling on the Virtues? I can see what you mean, but they are just two different cards. But yeah, I guess you're right. I guess they sometimes fail the same function. Yeah, you're right.
In terms of the powerful archetypes, that much is pretty obvious. But I wanted to talk about the more niche effects on cards and how these are so plentiful nowadays that sometimes we don't even necessarily think about them. And so it's a bit odd that I'm going to be bringing up Snake Eyes Poplar since I did mention niche effects, but it is very fascinating because there is a certain aspect here that I think is extrapolated upon other cards and become the norm. What do I mean by that? Understanding why Snake Eye was so good on the surface is obvious. This card was part of a singular card combo of which there were more than 20 starters that facilitated it, which gave you a nigh-on unbreakable board that could pretty much beat most Yu-Gi-Oh decks ever made. I wanted to bring up Poplar because this is perhaps the ultimate version of power creep in a singular card. There are parts of this card which have been copied time and time again onto other cards to make modern archetypes stronger, and it's this part here. If added from deck to hand, Poplar becomes a special summon. A typical normal summon that gets you a body out of the deck, like for example, Tour Guide from the Underworld.
Yeah, that's fair.
These become very vulnerable to hand traps. So while Snake Eye Ash, its main facilitator, could be negated and disrupted, when Poplar is added from the deck to the hand with Bonfire, a normal spell that simply reads add a Pyro, this buffs Bonfire from a regular searcher to an emergency teleport, a free body from the deck. This exact effect has been duplicated onto other cards, like Tenpai Genroku, a support card of Tenpai that essentially allowed you to do the same thing. Turn a searcher in the deck from a normal, run-of-the-mill Rota into a special summon directly out of the deck for any named monster you require. Junk Armor does the same thing for Synchron support, Crowley, the Magistus Fusion, and even lower powered decks in Genesis format like Emmy Blitzkrieg have had this exact...
I didn't know that this was a common thing. I thought it was just a Tenpai thing. I didn't know... I really thought that was a Tenpai thing because it's the only one that I use. I didn't know it worked like that for all archetypes. I just thought they were like good. True, for that I say all archetypes should have cards like this, like that one hero that have like two of that. There is a hero deck, a hero card that does this, that you add it and then just it's summoned. Is that a thing in hero? I don't remember.
wording duplicated onto their effects to power up modern cards. Cards that you wouldn't normally think of as extremely broken or powerful have taken this template and have moved forward with this power creep. Let's talk about another example, and that is reinforcements of the army. Rota,
yeah.
the standard for searching cards. I've mentioned it once or twice
Just
already
get a
in
guy.
this video. Archetypes and different decks have had different rotas be given extra tacked on effects that give them extra power creep. Theorealize is one of the most blatant examples of this. It's a foolish burial with 3 separate extra effects for no real reason. Theorealize can send Medius from deck to grave for cost.
That's already huge. And this cannot be negated. I mean, it can be negated, but you know what I mean. For cost, you send 1 Medius appear. You want that Medius appear in your graveyard. That's what you want. And that is the cost of the effect. That is insane.
Without interacting with any hand traps or stops from your opponent, this card
Miracle
instantly
Ejector?
puts
Oh, I didn't know
Medius
it worked
into
like that.
rotation, irrespective of what your opponent may want to respond with. The second effect, although we're still technically on the first effect, but the thing is, the cost, you could look at that as just a good effect in and of itself. The second effect is that this card stacks your opponent's top deck. So going first, you get to take a peek at the opponent's top deck. Is it a good
Okay,
start?
to me, that feels like a bonus, right? That's a bonus. What you want is send the guy to the graveyard. Pick at your opponent's top card, like, okay, sure, I'll take it.
Card that you would rather not deal with, you can send it to the bottom. Is it a hand trap that they're top decking? Well, that's very likely going to be dead on turn 2. You can leave it on top. Having that knowledge of what your opponent has in their hand is invaluable in Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And how you will be using your disruptions. The third effect of Theorealize is that you can banish it from your grave and manipulate the type and attribute of any monster you control. If you want to incorporate a small Fiendsmith engine in your deck, well, now if your opponent stops your normal summon or any monster on your side of the field, you can just turn it into a light fiend with the grave effect of Theorealize and go into Requiem for full combo. This has been a common theme for modern archetypes. Even rogue ones. It's tacking on bonus effects onto rotas, onto foolish burials, onto these basic searchers and standard combo lines of spell cards. There are graveyard effects attached onto traps as well to help give you some more resources and resilience. Another example I want to go over is recycling hand traps. This has become a modern kind of theme for a lot of archetypes. I remember the first...
I feel like this should be... Recycling hand traps won't be that good when they inevitably banned all that problematic hand traps and they get replaced by some hand traps that are not as good, right? Or they are good in only a specific context. I'm not good enough at the game to know what to do with knowing an enemy card aside from like it's Ash or something. Yeah, that's the thing. You need to know their archetypes in order to know if that's the card that they want. And if it's like a hand staple, you still kind of need to know how to play around it. You need to know about your opponent's deck. That's the issue. What if all the deck is a hand trap like K9 or Recotail? You know, you say that, but K9 only has 2 that are like that, which will be Suna and maybe Lupus, right? And I guess you can also play Holy Sue, but that will be just 3. That's it. There is no more. Okay? Don't act as if it's all K9 card like that. It's just those. It's just those. Those are like in total 7 cards, which yeah, it's a lot. Don't you play them alone? Yeah, of course. Well, you play them with other stuff, not always with Vanquish Soul, but I get what you mean. So there is like 7 cards that are hand traps, basically. On a philosophical level, what constitutes as a hand trap? A hand trap... That's a good question. A hand trap will be like a card that you can activate from your hand on your opponent's turn in order to disrupt one of their actions. That's what I will define as hand trap. I don't know if that's correct. That start to play from hand when you're just a fetus. So Runic Quick Play spells is a hand trap. You can activate it in your opponent's turn. You can activate Runic Quick Play spells in your opponent's turn. I don't That how it work? Oh no. No. Do you have fountain on the field? Yes. I don't count that. I wouldn't count that.
Major example of this consistent interaction was in 2019, where Sunlight Wolf could add back Ash Blossom from the graveyard. But now we've had decks like Cooltoon, and notably Dracotail as an archetype, take advantage of this. Blue Eyes, a deck that could just search Effect Veiler, was very much a relevant part of the early discourse of this year. Going back to Arthalion, it
Yeah, I will say Fountain turns spells into hand trap, but they aren't inherent hand traps. Yeah, I feel like that's how I will say it. Yeah, Crispy Apples. It's basically like, yeah, the spells themselves aren't hand traps, but combined with the Fountain, they become hand traps. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
is a boss monster which would normally be designed in a way so as to act as removal. But instead of removing cards, it can also recycle resources in your graveyard and let you reuse your disruption. And I think this is emblematic of a lot of modern card design. While the most obvious thing to say is, well, more text means more effects, which means more power, it's important to question what type of effects
Like the
are being
dinosaurs
added on.
don't have
Because you see, a
towers?
card like Arthalion might not be
Oh,
the
yeah, I get
most
what you mean.
powerful boss monster in the same way like a Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is, but it is far more versatile. And I think that's what matters when it comes to having a powerful boss monster, outside of just the obvious quick effect negate. Having a boss monster that can deal with multiple situations and going first, second, offensively, defensively, and even having the ability to bring itself back. There are
That's the cards that I like, honestly. More cards like just kidding. I don't want to see more cards. I mean I get it. It's just like they are too hard for me, and I have to deal with them. I have to play against them. It feels good to play against Dracotail because I feel like there is a limit to what Dracotail can do. But with Branded, it doesn't feel like there is a limit. But it's only because they are playing it really well. That's why I'm salty about it, because I cannot play it myself. I would play it myself if I could, but I'm just bad at the game. What can I do?
plenty of examples in the last 2 or 3 years of extra little small effects here and there that have made modern archetypes and decks and boss monsters be extremely powerful. If there's any that you think are particularly egregious, or things that go under the radar that you've noticed as a pattern, a template that Konami keeps reusing on multiple different cards, then leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to read through. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm telling you again, please subscribe. Yes, like the video, and of course follow me where I do daily streams on twitch.tv.
Follow Farfar.
See you in the next one. Adios.
I will say, like, there is a lot of cards like that, right? Like, they have an effect that is already really good. And they also have an effect when they are in the graveyard. And the branded cards are the most annoying ones, are the ones that have an effect in hand, which is usually something that makes it super easy for them to summon them into the field. They have an effect on the field, and then during the end phase, they have another effect to return to the hand. I hate that. I hate that. That's too much. There is not that many cards that can do stuff like that. They have 3 effects: one in hand, one on field, one in graveyard. And obviously, they are not like really good, but the fact that there is 3 of those is what makes it annoying. So we didn't see that, right, in this video. We saw that for the spells, right? For this spell, that they have also an effect in the graveyard. But there is a lot of monsters that do that. They get just extra stuff. I like some things, others I don't. I feel like I will have to look for more examples, but from the top of my head, I can think of Branded right now. There is also, for example, in Cooltoon, how they have an effect that is usually a searcher, right? They search something, but then they have also the inherent effect of being able to synchro summon with something from the hand as material, right? And then when they are used for a synchro summon, they have another effect. So it's basically like they have 3 effects, and that's a lot. And I guess it's cool when you know how to play it, but it's also like harder to learn, and it's more freestyle. I guess it's good. I'm not complaining about that. It's just like I'm salty that I don't play any of those decks that do a lot of stuff like that. Usually the only decks that I do, they only do one thing, I think. Yeah. Most decks that I play only do one thing. Every card does one thing. Or two max. Yeah, it feels like privilege. But maybe I just need to get with the times and stop playing old decks. I need to play a modern deck. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for recommending this video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.